My family cut me off from the family chat after I wouldn't give my sisters money. After that, they tried to steal $80,000 using my name, so I taught them a lesson. The message, "We think it's best you step away for now," popped up in a group chat. My parents, aunt, and uncle were all there, though my uncle usually didn't say much. This time, he didn't have to. The silence said enough. I was reheating some leftover curry and thinking about finishing a spreadsheet before bed when I saw it. "We've talked it over and we think it's best if you step away from the family for now. Vanessa needs space. We all do." My aunt just gave a thumbs up emoji below the message. No call, no explanation, just a thumb. I stared at the screen for a full minute before typing. Understood. I'll respect that and step away from the family fund too. I didn't wait for a response. That night I went into the joint account I'd been quietly managing for 5 years. It was the account that paid for my mom's insulin, helped my dad refinance his second mortgage, and kept Vanessa's car running when her paychecks were late. I stopped my automatic contributions and then closed the account. My phone started vibrating nonstop. By morning, I had 89 missed calls. My dad left the last voicemail. His voice was shaky, angry, and scared. "What happened?" "The bank flagged everything. Are you okay?" I replied to his message with a single sentence. "I respect your decision." This all happened before they realized how much I had been quietly doing. You'd have to know the backstory to truly understand why that message felt like such a betrayal. 5 years ago, Vanessa was hospitalized for the second time. My dad called me, crying from a Walgreens parking lot. "She's not going to make it. Son," he told me, "they won't admit her without insurance. We're tapped out." That night, I used up all my savings and paid for her rehab out of my own pocket. Vanessa seemed stable for a while. Everyone called it a miracle, but they never once mentioned that I had made it possible. Nobody offered to repay me. Nobody even asked how I was doing. But it didn't end there. When my mom was diagnosed with diabetes, I started covering her medications. My dad's hours at the warehouse were being cut. Vanessa's stability would go up and down, and every time she hit a low point, they would come to me quietly and desperately. At first it was small things, like $300 just for that month. Then they asked if I could help set something up, a kind of family emergency fund. I was 27 and single, working 80-hour weeks in finance. It made sense. I told myself I could afford it, so I did. I created a family fund in my name. I sent payments for my mom's prescriptions, Vanessa's therapy, copays, and even the phone bill when they fell behind. They gave me access to everything: passwords, account numbers, and balances. Not because they trusted me, but because they didn't want to deal with it. They called me the responsible one, but they really meant the most convenient option. My life became a series of silent sacrifices. Meanwhile, Vanessa kept spiraling. She got a DUI in 2020 and I paid for her lawyer. She moved in with a guy named Eric who was definitely not abusive. And when she left him in the middle of the night, I was the one who Venmo'd her enough money. For a hotel and groceries, I never got a cent back. They never asked where the money came from. They never saw the detailed spreadsheet I created to keep myself afloat. They never noticed when I downgraded my apartment, skipped vacations, and ate oatmeal for dinner more nights than I'd like to admit, all because I had to. I was the financial wall between them and everything falling apart. And for a while, I was okay with it, until the Christmas incident that happened 2 years ago. Vanessa threw a fit when I refused to buy her new tires after I had just paid her rent. She told my parents I was making her feel judged. That night I got a message from Dad. "Just try to be a little more understanding. Son, she's in recovery. You don't know how hard that is," I snapped. Not openly or explosively, but something inside me cracked like ice under pressure. I didn't respond. Instead, I tried something else. I started documenting everything. Every dollar given, every invoice paid, and every excuse they gave. I made backups, emailed myself statements, and gathered screenshots. Not to hold it over them yet, but to remind myself that it was real, that I hadn't imagined the drain, the pattern, or the constant taking without giving. Then last month, things came to a head. Vanessa messaged the family group, "Hey, I know money's tight, but could the fund cover a yoga retreat in Arizona? It's for my mental health. A yoga retreat, $3,200. I didn't respond. I waited. I was curious what they would say. And my father, the same man who helped me get out of debt twice last year, said, "Sounds like something you really need. Let's see what we can do." Mom responded with a heart emoji. That's when I understood they weren't just using me. They expected to manipulate me. They assumed the fund was theirs and that I was a silent donor. Years had passed, and entitlement had replaced gratitude. But the real shocker, the grenade in the room, arrived just 2 nights before that message. We were on a family call, a monthly check-in that usually turned into Vanessa's therapy session with me serving as the invisible ATM in the background. I tried to talk about my promotion. I had been promoted to director at the firm, a huge raise, enormous responsibility. Dad interrupted me mid-sentence. "Sorry, can we circle back to Vanessa's housing? She's not feeling safe in her current unit. They intended to move her to a better area, with my help of course." I didn't agree. I didn't fight. I simply stated calmly, "Maybe it's time someone else stepped up." Silence, cold, stony, and outraged. Then came the message 2 days later. We think it's best if you step away for now. Aunt Evelyn's thumbs up felt like a knife. They thought they were cutting me off. They had no idea they were cutting the cord to the only thing holding their financial life together. I had been the silent stream beneath their lives. When I stopped, their lights went out. The consequences started in exactly 36 hours. First came the overdraft notices. Then Mom's pharmacist called me. Then Vanessa, the one who wanted space, left a voicemail that began as a whisper and ended in a scream. Why would you do this? You knew I needed that payment. By Sunday morning, the texts were non-stop. Dad unleashed a barrage of voice messages like a man falling apart in real time. They excluded me from the family chat as if I didn't belong. The mortgage bounced. I thought you handled the insurance. The car is uninsured now. What did you do to the utilities account? The bank locked out checking. Said there were multiple red flags. You need to fix this. Fix this. As if I'd broken something. As if I hadn't already stepped aside as requested. The real issue wasn't that I stopped helping. They didn't understand how much I was holding everything together. Then came the family's Zoom call. My cousin Emily set it up, pretending it was just a conversation. But as soon as I joined, I saw their faces lined up in perfect little rectangles like a jury. Mom's lips were pressed so tightly they looked bloodless. Dad was pacing. Vanessa had tears running down her face. It seemed rehearsed. Aunt Evelyn sat smugly in a scarf and pearls as if we were in family court. Why did you do this to us? Vanessa asked, her voice shaking. You just abandoned us after everything I've done. I responded, you mean after I paid your rent, funded your rehab, and got mocked for saying no to your yoga retreat? That's not fair, she said. Fair, I demanded. You want fair? How about this? For 5 years I've covered your financial trail like a forensic janitor. I've cleaned up your messes, paid your overdrafts, bailed you out while you posted inspirational quotes about healing and alignment. And the moment I hesitate, you exiled me from the family chat like I was disposable. Mom finally spoke. It wasn't exiled, we were giving you space, too. No, you weren't, I interrupted. You were siding with Vanessa again, like you always do. You just found a polite way to tell me to disappear. So, I did. Dad folded his arms. You didn't have to cancel the fund. I didn't cancel it, I explained. I closed it in my name, funded with my money, managed by me. The family fund was never a trust, it was a leash. His face turned red. We trusted you. No, I replied. You used me. Then I opened the folder beside me and selected share screen. A spreadsheet appeared, rows upon rows of payments, dates, amounts, every dime tracked, rent, medical, utilities, repairs, Vanessa's retreat, which I almost paid for. I fixed the overdrafts, Aunt Evelyn's emergency dental visit, even the Uber receipts from when I paid for Mom's ride to the hospital at 2 a.m. during a panic attack. Wow, Emily whispered. Who even keeps all this? Evelyn sneered. Someone who knew one day you'd gaslight him into thinking he made it all up, I asked, my gaze never leaving the screen. Then I selected the final tab. It displayed a running total, $87,421.13. There was no more sound. Dad stepped back from the camera as if he had been slapped. You've been keeping tabs on us, Mom exclaimed, alarmed. No, I replied. I've been surviving you. Vanessa lunged at the screen like a toddler throwing a tantrum. You're just bitter. You've always been bitter because no one gives you a gold star for being a good son. You want applause for acting like an adult. No, I said quietly. I just want boundaries, and I'm done being your financial safety net. That's rich, Evelyn mumbled. You think money is the only thing that matters? No, I replied. But it was the only thing you ever came to me for. Then I closed the spreadsheet, looked at the camera, and delivered the final blow. I've already contacted the bank, all joint authorizations removed. My name is no longer on anything related to your accounts. The credit cards closed. The shared utility autopays were cancelled. The insurance premiums, you'll need to re-enroll yourselves. You wanted me to step away. This is what that looks like. Mom gasped. Dad's face went pale. Vanessa looked like she had been shot. Emily leaned back in awe. But I wasn't finished. I also spoke to a lawyer. I added, you'll be receiving documents in the next few days. I'm dissolving any legal ties between me and the family trust that was never formalized. Just in case someone tries to dip into my credit or open anything in my name again. You're overreacting, Vanessa yelled. You're cutting us off. I'm protecting myself, I explained. From now on, I'm not your plan B, not your fallback, not your free ride. Dad looked broken but said nothing. Mom was quietly sobbing now. Vanessa got up and stormed off screen, slamming something in the background. Evelyn reached forward and ended the call without saying anything. I sat back, heart racing and hands trembling. But for the first time in a decade, I wasn't terrified of the consequences because all I had to lose was the weight I'd been carrying for far too long. The hush following the call was almost spooky. For the first time in years, my phone didn't ring with a "Hey, quick favor," or "Can you just cover this one thing?" There were no guilt-laced voicemails, No crying emojis. Vanessa didn't make any passive-aggressive posts about a family who turned their backs. Nothing. It was as if I had disappeared. At first, I wondered if they'd finally gotten it. Perhaps they were learning to stand on their own. But I should have known better. 10 days later, I received an email from an address I didn't know. It was clearly a burning message with one sentence: "You've ruined everything." Bills were attached as screenshots. Vanessa had received an eviction notice. The power company had issued a final warning. A credit card application was declined with my name listed as a former cosigner. They were falling apart swiftly and chaotically. And the issue with people who are used to relying on you is that they don't fall gracefully. They crash and blame you for the landing. That same week, Mum arrived at my office. I was attending a meeting. My assistant entered wide-eyed. "There's a woman here. Says she's your mother, won't leave." I walked into the lobby where she was pale and shivering, carrying an envelope full of paperwork. I didn't know where else to go. She said in a scratchy voice, "Your dad's sleeping on the couch. Vanessa hasn't left her room in 3 days. The landlord says he's changing the locks next week." I didn't say anything, so she played her final card. "I raised you," she retorted, suddenly angry. "I gave you life, and this is how you repay us." That's when I laughed. Not loud or nasty, just hollow, like air escaping from a damaged pipe. "You gave me life," I explained. "And then you spent 30 years trying to convince me I owed you for it." She flinched. I stepped forward. "I didn't come to you at 22 and say, 'Please, let me be responsible for your dysfunction. Let me carry your debt. Let me save my sister over and over again while you nod and enable her. Let me sacrifice my mental health, my relationships, my life, just so you can avoid looking in the mirror.'" She said nothing, so I continued. "You want help? Call a social worker, call a credit counselor, call the same system you said people like us were too proud to rely on. I'm not your bailout anymore." I then walked back to my office. I didn't even check to see if she was following me. But it was not the end. A week later, I received a letter, not an email, but a physical letter, from the bank. The envelope was thick, the kind of thick that spells disaster. Inside, there was a fraught inquiry summary. Someone apparently tried to open a business loan using my name, SSN, and the family fund's tax ID number. The only reason it didn't go through was that I had closed the account a few days before, which triggered a fraud warning. The loan totaled $80,000. The company name was Vanessa Grace Recovery Services LLC. I froze. That wasn't a legitimate company. There was no LLC. There was no tax record, no license. However, the papers were submitted along with a counterfeit signature that matched mine. I called the bank. The fraud department representative picked up the entire packet, and as she read the cosigners, Dad and Mom, I sat there in startled silence as she said, "Sir, it appears someone close to you tried to pose as your authorized financial partner. If you hadn't closed that fund, this might have gone undetected. They hadn't just used me. They attempted to transfer responsibility onto me, quietly attached my name to a debt that I was not a part of." That's when everything became clearer. Vanessa suddenly wanted space. My parents encouraged it. The silence, the removal, the courteous exile. It was not a spontaneous event. It was a setup. Take me off the fund discreetly. Keep my name attached. Take the money, disappear. Allow the bank to come after me if things crumbled. They didn't only want my assistance. They wanted to hold me responsible without asking. When that didn't work, they made me the villain in a tale about their own failed theft. I spent the weekend filling out paperwork with the bank, police, and IRS. I submitted the fake paperwork. I wrote affidavits. I even handed over earlier texts in which Vanessa expressed interest in forming a non-profit in my name. It took several hours, but each keystroke felt like therapy. Vanessa called that night from a different phone number. Crying, I just wanted to say, "I get it now." I let her talk. She didn't mention the loan. I didn't mention the forgery. She just went on about how sad she was, how difficult things had been, and how we were still family. I asked one question. "Did you know about the business application?" There was no more sound. Then the line went dead. I blocked that number. That's when the real shift occurred. Not them, but me. I began sleeping better. I stopped checking my bank app every night, fearful that someone was stealthily siphoning my funds again. I went to supper with friends and didn't flinch when the bill arrived. Then Uncle Henry called. He was an outcast. They labeled him as unstable after he severed ties years ago. He found me on LinkedIn. "Saw what you did," he said. "Heard about the fund. Heard about the loan, too." I didn't ask how. Henry always knew more than he let on. "You're not the first they've drained," he said. "Just the first who shut the faucet off." And that's when it clicked. This wasn't only about me. This was generational. A long line of people who were nurtured into service, silence, and becoming the savior while everyone else drowned in denial. They assumed I was the villain because I had stopped playing the hero. Allow me to tell you something about heroes. The majority of them die broke and exhausted while everyone else applauds at their funeral. Not me. I switched cities 2 months later. New job, better team, increased pay, no forwarding address, and one day, In the solitude of my new apartment, with the floors still bare and the furniture still arriving, I received a Facebook message from Eric. Yeah, Eric, Vanessa's ex, who she said was abusive. I didn't expect this. It read, "But thank you for helping her, even when she didn't deserve it." I wasn't the only thing she needed saving from. It completely stopped me. Not because I wanted affirmation, but because that was the first time anyone in that circle admitted the truth. I had been protecting them from themselves until I quit. And when I stopped, the silence that followed was not due to remorse. It was freedom. It's been nearly a year. It's been 12 months since I closed the fund, since the group chat banishment, since a 3 a.m. phone call resulted in 89 missed calls, one message, and an unexpected financial collapse, since they submitted a business loan application under my name without my knowledge and attempted to frame me for $80,000 in fictitious recovery services. I kept thinking about how empty I would feel after going away. That shame would creep in late at night, as it used to, whispering, "They're your family. Maybe you overreacted. Maybe you could have saved them." But what is the only thing I feel right now? Peace, not the performing sort, not the sort you pretend to have while holding back tears at Sunday dinner while someone makes a joke about you being the responsible one. Real peace, the kind where your phone doesn't ring with dread, where your money belongs to you, where your boundaries lie, where you don't apologize for being free. They tried, of course. Mom sent an email on Christmas Eve. She stated that the tree appeared to be less full this year. I've attached a photo of her and her father in the living room smiling without their teeth as if performing for the camera. Vanessa sent an email on her birthday in March, a 5-paragraph essay about how she was recovering her authority, concluding with a casual mention of needing assistance with her first and last month's rent. I didn't respond to either. I still check my credit score every month. That's okay. There were no unexpected accounts. There are no mysterious charges. The alerts I set up following the forgery never went off because I now control my life and defend it in the same way I once did theirs. But now comes the unexpected part. Others came forward, including cousins I hadn't seen in years, co-workers I'd hardly spoken to, and a stranger on Reddit who noticed my comment in a finance post and messaged, "Your story. I think it happened to me too." It turns out there are many of us, the strong ones, the trusty ones. They are the ones who pay the rent, mend the disarray, hide the panic, and bear the weight despite being told we are too cold. When we finally ask for anything back, the family vaults with no locks slam closed. Until one day, we discover how to slam the door. Let me be clear, leaving my family was the most difficult thing I have ever done. It's harder than watching Vanessa relapse. It's harder than removing Dad from my emergency contact list. It was harder than keeping silent while they branded me selfish, bitter, and cruel. But it was also the most important thing I'd ever done, because staying would have entailed slowly murdering myself for their comfort. And the final straw, the one that convinced me I had done the right thing, arrived just a few weeks ago. I was walking home from a late client meeting along the same street I'd walked dozens of times before. And Aunt Evelyn was sitting outside the corner bakery, scarf, pearls, the same smug posture. She saw me. We waved as if we were old friends. I nearly continued walking, but I paused. She eyed me up and down. "You look well," she said. "I am. What's the catch?" she asked without cynicism. "Would you ever consider setting something up again for emergencies?" I laughed long, low, and from deep within my core. Then I calmly said, "I did. It's called my future." I walked away. I'm not sure if they'll ever really grasp what they lost or why I had to leave. Perhaps they will change the story. Say I was greedy, unstable, ungrateful. Perhaps Vanessa will convert a blog piece about toxic siblings into a podcast. I don't care because the fact is straightforward. I am not the villain in their story. I am the one who has finally fled it, and in doing so, I gave myself something others could never have: unconditional freedom.